Sundays have always been sacred to me. It gives me a chance to spend time with my family, with my friends, to focus on my faith. And honestly, We Rest on Sundays is a platform that I've created to help you navigate the complexities of the world. I want to spend time having open, honest dialogue with mentors, friends and family, and individuals that I truly believe are exceptional. We're going to focus on love, career, marriage, parenting, and everything in between. And the primary goal here is for us to become the better versions of ourselves every single day. I want to thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on Sunday. Well, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to really just sharing more of our college journey and like our foundational years of how we met and spent time together. And one of my favorite quotes that I always think about is create a life that you can't wait to wake up to. And I think, we've been together now for 18 years. We've been married now for 8 going on 9 years. And one, I just want to thank you because I think that we have been able to curate and really just like create this beautiful, exceptional life with these children and really just staying locked into our marriage and our nuptials and designing the life that I think we both have desired and what we saw coming in the future. So I really just want to unpack some of that and share more with really just people in the world and the youth, because I think that it can be very powerful for really just like kids to set their intention when they're in college and potentially, if it works for you, have the goal of meeting somebody and creating the life that you want to design. So yeah. I'll kick it off and just say, do you actually remember the first time we met and what was your honest impression of me?
Yeah, I do. The first time we actually interacted in person, from my recollection, was at a house party. It was our freshman year at Spelman and Morehouse. We were actually at Ryan Bates' apartment. Ryan and Jason, I think, were living together. And it was just literally a house party with all of our friends. I don't think there was any furniture in there. Like, we were literally just fresh to school, just hanging out. I remember all of our friends were there. And it's funny because looking back on the photos from that, I can visualize a picture from this party that night in my head, and it's all of us together, all our friends are like hanging out, and you're standing right next to me. And I obviously did not know it at the moment or think anything of it in the moment, but looking back on it, it's just funny because you're right there. We were literally together next to each other. And we were just getting to know each other. We were fresh out, so I didn't know a lot about you, obviously, but there was something that was very intriguing to me. You were different, and I could just tell that there was something unique about you, and I kind of just wanted to get to know more. That took a little time, obviously, but I do remember that day and just being intrigued, like, I need to get into another layer of this.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember that party and that day like it was yesterday, and we're still friends with everybody.
Yep. Yes.
That is in that
Yes.
in those pictures and in that environment. So it's a lot of fun. It's a fond memory to think back on as well.
It is.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. You say you saw me before we even got to college, and you say that you immediately remember knowing that, like, I was the one. I was your person. What in that moment made you say that? What made you think that?
Yeah. This is gonna sound super corny, but this is just my truth, so it is what it is. But the movie, you're familiar with the movie Twilight.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think it's when the wolves imprint on like their person or the person that like they admire. It literally felt like that sensation when I saw you for the first time, and I legitimately just had a feeling internally, whether it's probably more than likely God, of like I feel like that's my person. And then when I started asking more and more questions about you, your story, your journey, and I realized that you lost your mom when you were 8 due to breast cancer, and I realized that like you were working and like super disciplined. I was like, okay, like this is going to be somebody that more than likely will be able to accept the adversities that I come from and really be able to see me and really be able to lean into just like the goals, I think how I'm wired and understand me. And that was really like my goal and what I wanted. And I just felt like you were going to be my person, the person to be able to do so. And it's weird because obviously I only saw you from somewhere on campus.
Mm-hmm.
But the more that I was around you and in your atmosphere, spending time as friends, the more and more I felt like this is what God has designed for me to really focus on.
I love that. So, did you come into college with the intention of finding someone?
I did. I did. I think for me, again, my background, my story. My parents were never married, and um, and my mom didn't have the chance to get married, and I think that has played a significant role in my upbringing and just like in my thoughts and really me understanding the foundation of marriage. I came into college knowing that I had an opportunity to see really, really strong black families and households that have been married for decades and decades and decades. And I thought that that was a gift. Um, and on top of that, I feel like college, when we were in school, Morehouse was like $28,000 a year and I didn't have any money. So I was like, I need to set my intention, and part of my intention is coming here to potentially find a spouse and somebody that will be a lifelong partner and work to build the life that I desire to have and a life that we can create together. And I think, so I was coming in freshman year, not saying, oh, I need to get married, right away or freshman year, but it's like, no, I need to like take this thing seriously and treat it like it's already a part of my life, my career, my discipline, and, potentially find somebody that will partner with me to really build, a life that we desire and to chase our goals jointly together. But how about you? Did you?
Um, I don't think a, it wasn't like one, two, three things I need to do in college, like find a man, do it. It wasn't like that. I knew it would come along the way. So I was more open to it. I knew it would happen, but it wasn't like I came in specifically searching for my person.
Yeah, no, it's good. So it does pivot us because you were dating somebody else
Yeah,
freshman
yeah.
year, and I feel like I respected that space and that time frame. But again, I also have my own intentions. I have my own goals. But my question to you really is, as you were dating somebody else, did you think that I had intentions? Like, what was their thoughts about really me and our friendship during that first year of college?
I think we started as friends, and I thought it was that in the beginning. Obviously, like you said, I was dating somebody else, and you're always respectful of that, which, says a lot. Um, I knew you were always there kind of behind the scenes. Did I know you were like waiting and plotting? No, not necessarily. Because like I said, you were respectful. Um, but, looking back on it now, I can see those moments where like, yeah, you were there and you were waiting and you were, very patient. But at the time, I mean, I didn't know you had these secret plans in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that brings me a question to you. How did you handle that waiting period when I was dating somebody else? Like, did you ever think like, man, she may not come around, or how was that for you?
Yeah, it was frustrating. I mean, if I'm being honest with you, like that's my very first answer. I think, and this is, no discredit to him or any shade, but and this, let me even back up and like be very, very transparent and very honest and authentic. I think for me, I was coming into college and I was this broke boy. Like I was poor, didn't come from much. Yeah, I had two older sisters that were like helping to provide, but it was like we were really like fighting for everything that we had.
Yeah.
And the guy that you were dating came from what I would describe as potentially an affluent household. And for me, I was like, that's really hard to compete against because he already has had every single opportunity coming into college, coming into life, and he can present things to her potentially as a freshman in college, getting money financially from his parents and support that I just cannot do. And I don't have that luxury and I don't have those opportunities. So for me, there were time periods where I would get stuck in my head where I'm like, well, damn, like, does she want that? Or is it like, no, she can like see that like my drive, my discipline, like this will pay off over time. It's just not going to pay off right now, you know? And I think, so yeah, you know, I had those moments of brief insecurity, and brief, you know, I think like questioning, like, is this right? But I think ultimately, I really like stood behind my principles and my values and what I believe to be true and what I believe to be right. And I was like, this is supposed to happen. And like, it just felt like that to my core, if, especially as we spent more and more time together as friends. And then when I was pledging and you were pledging, like, it made even more sense to me. And then our friends were like the same friends. So I'm like, we're already doing life together. So it made sense to me. Um, so yeah, I think that's my you know, my truthful answer behind it all. Yeah. Um, were you so that does make me pivot to think more about, again, I briefly just touched on my background and my upbringing, but when we were earlier in dating and when I started sharing more and more about really just my background and where I came from and the adversities. And, you know, that's different than your upbringing and your life. And I think some of your experiences that you have ever faced or dealt with before up close, you know, in person. But were you ever honestly worried about my background, and or did you have any fear that I would not be able to provide for you, you know, in the future?
Short answer is no. Um, I was not really concerned about that. I knew at your core you were a good person and you always presented that way. And that just mattered more to me. I mean, we obviously navigated these challenging waters that we had um, because of our adversities and our backgrounds. I think there's something special and unique about having a challenge that you've had to overcome in your life. Both of us have had that. Obviously, we've spoken on that. So that wasn't really a concern for me. Um, I just knew that there was something in you and you had that drive, and I knew we were gonna figure it out. Like you told me over and over, like, we are gonna figure this out. Like,
Hmm.
we're not taking any breaks. We are gonna figure this out. And we did. And so, I mean, to answer your question, no, I was not overly concerned. Yeah, it was unique, sure. I mean, but there are plenty of things in life that we get over and get through. So, no, your background was not, I mean, it wasn't really a factor to
Yeah.
me. The person you presented as in that moment was more important than what came before that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and that's good to hear because I think that like for me during that time period, I was always like wrestling in my head where I'm like not questioning myself and my abilities, but it was like, does she see that I am enough? Does she believe that I'm going to be enough? You know, like as time goes on and even today, because I say this all the time, like character matters. Like
Yeah.
it's very simple for me. It's like character matters. And if you can present yourself and you can be somebody that's authentic and you can have a strong character, I think ultimately that will help carry you, you know, in your relationship really just forward. And, you know, I think that's been something that's helped our marriage over time, you know, as
Yeah,
well.
I agree. I agree. So, what were some of the biggest challenges once we started dating? What were some of the biggest challenges in transitioning, you think, from just being friends, knowing each other for this year or whatever, being friends to taking that next step?
Yeah, I think we really tried and started dating during like a really difficult time, in my opinion. Like we were both fresh off of pledging,
Yeah.
right? I just became an alpha, you just became an AKA, and for anybody that has the luxury, because that's what it is, in my opinion, to pledge, especially at an HBCU, you come off of, you know, the process and like you're kind of propelled into like this whole different like social setting,
Hmm.
and it's fun and it's partying and it is, you know, people that now want to just kind of be around because they know that like, oh, like the alphas are going to throw parties, the Qs are going to throw parties, the AKs are going to be together
Yeah.
and be everywhere. And you know, there's a lot of attention that comes with that. And some is good and some is like challenging if you haven't ever been the athlete in school or the person that is used to, and I hate the word, but it's like being popular. Um, it can just spin you into a variety of different things. I think for us, like we both like were very active in high school, so we were used to like, having a lot of friends and all of that. But I think that like you were also just like in a very busy season of like school, work, friends, new friends, as was I. And I think the challenge of it was, like I'll speak for myself. I feel like my head got big for a little bit where it's like, okay, she wants to take a break. Like, I don't believe in breaks and she's not hearing me. So, I'm going to try to dance with every girl in this club tonight, And I think that like, I look back on moments like that and instances like that and I cringe, right? Because I feel like that's like, it's very low energy and it's like, it's low level character in my opinion. But at the end of the day, we were 18, 19 years old, right? So it's like mistakes are going to be made and this is going to help you realize really just like what's actually important and like it's going to help you mature as well. So while I may cringe, I also think it was a necessity for growth and for the health of our relationship ultimately, because we were able to like go through all of these like silly, ridiculous like fights or issues or being toxic at time periods in the safe space of an HBCU's campus.
Yeah.
And then we were able to like get out and like kind of run a little bit quicker when it came to pursuing our careers. We had already fought about the stupid immature things, like in college. And now it's like, hey, we're starting our careers and like launching into this. So it's like, we already got through all of that. Now it's like, what's next, So I would say that was pretty much it for me. How about yourself?
Same. Yeah, when we started dating, oh man, what an interesting time.
Yeah.
Like you said, we were both fresh off of, you know, sorority, fraternity and sorority, and just an interesting time in college life, right after our sophomore year. Just a lot going on. And I mean, every challenge I can think of, like we went through it. We went through the public fights. I would say some of the challenging things were doing a lot of this in public. Like you said, we were propelled onto this like next level of whatever you want to call it in HBCUs. But we did a lot of it publicly. We were like the alpha and the AKA, and people knew who we were. And so we're going through these relationship issues, and there, is a beauty and a curse in that. A lot of people were in our business. They knew what was going on. They were at these house parties where we're like fighting outside, But the beauty of that is that our friends were there and they knew both of us. They knew our character. These have been our friends since day one. And they were there to support us. Like, girl, you're tripping. Like, call him back. Or like, okay, Ben, like, come on, dog. Y'all figure it out. And so I think the beauty side of that is having our friends, behind us, and they still are same friends to this day. So I think a lot of challenge was just doing a lot of that publicly. And like you said, we were 18, 19, like we were literally kids trying to figure out life and trying to figure out how to grow up individually, trying to figure out how to grow up together, like in this new public life that we were living. And it presented its challenges, but at the end of the day, it made us better. It made us stronger. Obviously, it made us closer. So I wouldn't change it, but man, we had some time.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah.
And speaking of times, do you remember that time period when I was living with my fraternity brothers? So it was me, AJ, Shaka, and Chad in a house together out in Cascade.
Absolutely. How could I forget?
And I begged you, because you were studying, you like had some biology tests, you were really locked in, and you were like, I'm not coming over today, blah, blah. Your house it's a mess, and y'all are loud in there, it's a frat house. And I'm like, no. Like, I promise you, like, it's going to be quiet today. I literally text my line brothers and I say, hey, y'all, I'm really trying to pursue Indian. Like, I want this thing to work. I'm really passionate about it. Please, like, can we have a night of just quiet and like chill? And they're all like, yeah, of course. Like, we got you. We got you, Red. We got you. And I'm like, okay, like, cool. Perfect. Looking forward to it. Finally convince you to come over. You come over. You legitimately like are studying on my bed. And I'm like, oh, she's locked in. Like, I'm
like, I told you.
Yeah.
I have a test tomorrow. Like, I will come, but do not talk to me.
Literally. I'm like, oh man, okay, well, here we are. But long story short, it's quiet in the house. It's peaceful.
For a moment.
For a moment, Chad comes in and is laying on the horn outside of the house because somebody is parked. We had a rule at our house where no girls could
No
park
girls could park in the front.
in the front. And he's laying on the horn because at the time,
Someone had
AJ,
parked in the front.
give me grace. Somebody had parked in the front,
Mm-hmm.
and he's laying on the horn. I'm like, there's no way that this is happening. And you're like, are you kidding me? I remember you saying that. Not only he comes in the house, goes upstairs, gets my pots and pans, and starts banging them together.
And I'm like, oh, I'm about to go.
And I remember that being a defining moment where I was like, oh my God, like she is
Yeah, about to go.
about to leave, about to fail this test, about to all the thing, never come back over here again. So when you share more about just like the moments and like the craziness and hecticness of like college, and even in that, like we laughed about it after the fact because I ran up there, I was so upset.
Yeah.
But but we laughed about it, right? Because like those moments will happen, and I think the frustration of like being in that moment when you think that like, oh, I have the plan and the play like set up and it's gonna be perfect, and then like an audible comes and you have to make the adjustment. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That story to me always resonates as like a defining moment of our early
Yes.
early dating.
I will never forget.
Yeah.
I will never forget. Oh my goodness. So we definitely took some short-term breaks. I remember in the beginning, you were like, we're not taking breaks. Like, I don't take breaks. You're either locked in or you're not. But, as life goes on, we ended up taking some short-term breaks. So are there any bigger lessons that you learned during those breaks? Ultimately, we obviously, circle back around, but anything you learned while we were on those breaks?
Yeah, I think I felt validated that you were ultimately my person. And again, I was the king of saying to you, I was like, I don't believe in breaks. I don't believe in breaks. Like we need to like really stick this through and figure it out. And
Yeah.
it's the same for me when it comes to marriage. It's like I don't personally believe in separation because I think that like you crack that door to separation and like you're kind of introducing the idea of divorce. So for me, I'm like, if we can stay in this, and so I knew that I wanted to marry you. So while still a teenager, early teens, like in dating, I was like, I have to treat this like a marriage right now. So if I'm saying I don't believe in breaks, that means that like down the road, I don't believe in separation. So she will understand my logic behind it. And like, granted, I wasn't always in control. So it's like, if you were like, look, we either take a break or like we're done. I'm like, all right, I'll take the break. Like, like I'm gonna take what is offered. Because ultimately I knew what direction I wanted my life to go in, and I just wanted you to also see that like he really wants me to be a part of this journey and like to create this journey and this foundation together. So while the breaks were hard, and I think that like I learned a lot of lessons during it, right? But I think the primary thing for me that I want to focus on is like I knew that it confirmed to me that you were my person and who I needed to really like build this foundational life with.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think same for me. Now, while granted, I was not perfect. I was no angel. And I was kind of the one initiating some of these breaks. And I think looking back on it, just a lot of immaturity. I think it's a lot of growth that had to happen. I will speak for me personally, going to the other side and coming back. Like I had to know maybe what I was missing. And I will say at the end of one of those breaks, I was like, oh, I made the wrong decision. Like, this is not where I need to be. And I'm like, dang, is he going to take me back? Like, I got to call him back. I got to talk to him a little while. Like, what is going to happen? There was a little unknown, but at the end of everything, it definitely showed me your commitment. And that you were my person. Like, we were both locked in and that we could figure it out. Like, I feel like I had genuinely, like, messed up and made the wrong decision. But, that's part of life. And if we can mess up and we can figure it out together and we can come back and, pick up where we were before, it just reassured me that you are the person that I need to be doing this with. So it taught me a lot on the other side. I'm sure the waiting side was very challenging, but it definitely taught me a lot. And like I said, just immaturity and things I had to figure out and bump my head on, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you knew about my ability to overcome adversities, and you had your own. When did you first feel like I truly like saw you for who you were? Just beyond the surface, beyond, what everybody else saw. When did you feel like I really first like saw you?
Yeah, and I don't think you knew that I was going to tell you the story. And if I mix it up, you correct me. But I think it was your 21st birthday, and your family invited your ex-boyfriend
Yeah,
to the birthday rather than inviting me,
correct.
and I was livid.
Rightfully so.
I mean, livid. I was like, this is the most disrespectful thing that I've ever seen and experienced in my entire life. And I had to like gather. I remember like, I think I talked to AJ about it, my line brother, and I was like, this is maddening. I'm like, what in the world? I'm like, we're supposed to be locked in and all these things, and like, this is crazy. And you were beyond apologetic. You're like, this is, I didn't invite him, blah blah blah, all of the things. But for me in that moment, I think when you gave me the space to really like express my frustration, where I was like, nah, like this is like I don't deal with disrespect, and I
Yeah.
don't, and like I don't tolerate this. Like this is not how I'm moving, and like maybe this is like you go your way, I'll go my way, and we'll figure this thing out like separately. But like
Yeah.
I'm not doing this, and I think in that moment, and like during those conversations, and us both being clear on like setting our intentions and what we want this to be and what we expect this to be and what we really like desire this to be. I think you really understood where it was like, okay, this dude isn't just trying to date me. He's not just trying to be my boyfriend because it's like the cool thing to do. Like he's legitimately trying to be my person. And that's one of many instances, but for me, I think that was the one when we were young. I still feel young, but when we were really young, that made it clear for me where I was like, I think she sees me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
okay. Uh, so again, you lost your mom at a very young age. Um, so for me, I know that it was like very defining for you and like hard to really navigate that. But did you see something in me that made you feel safe and trusting and secure? Um, and like really just like trusting to again partner to build the life that you desire to have down the road.
Yeah, I absolutely did. I always felt safe with you. There was something about you. I mean, still to this day, I just feel safe. Like I feel taken care of. Um, and yes, we had our challenges and we had our little fights, but it was never anything that was like disrespectful or I feared that you would like put your hands on me or nothing that like took it to the next level. Like, okay, I can't, that's nothing I can like deal with. You were always, you just felt safe. You
Mm.
still feel safe. It feels like I can mess up and I will always have you to like fall back on. You will always like protect me. I just remember being in college and like going to these parties and I'm always like, okay, Ben's here, like I'm good. Like I always had almost like a blanket around me. That's like the warmest way I can describe it. But there's just always been something about you that just feels so safe and just reassuring because I mean, that over everything is monumental to me. Just feeling safe and feeling like somebody's going to be there to pick me up when times are hard or to like literally defend me if I need it. Or, I mean, all of those things, you were always those. Like I said, yes, we had our challenges, but there were never moments where I felt unsafe
Yeah,
or anything like that.
yeah, it's good. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Um, so we both had our struggles. Anything specific for you that maybe leads to like how that shaped the way that we love each other or, see each other for who we are now? We've got it. We went through our struggles, individually, but anything that comes to mind that maybe you think just shapes kind of how we are today or what brought
Yeah,
about our love for each other.
yeah. I think that like I think that we are both very, very disciplined people, and I think with that discipline and type A people, and I think with that comes a lot of beauty, but also at times, if you don't truly understand the other person, it can come with a lot of challenge, right? And I think that because we thoroughly understand each other and have a true admiration and true love and true respect for one another, we don't allow our personal drive, our personal, being type A impact the health of our family and the health of our marriage at the end of the day, right? Like, I think our drive individually is very, very high. And for me, regardless, it's not deeper or more immense than the love that we have for each other. And I think as long as we are keeping God and keeping our love first and foremost, and like really, really the health of our marriage in the forefront of everything else, then like the rest of our goals will come into place. So for me, I think that's really the primary thing that has stood out the most for me. And I think the reason why it is very easy for us to continue to stay really just locked in, grounded in our marriage. And like, even when we have those disagreements, right? Like, the issues and the fights are a lot different than what they looked and felt like in college, right? Like, we're not doing anything toxic. And the issues that we have, it's like, okay, like, you're really, really passionate about this right now, and it may take an hour for us to be quiet around each other, and it's like we recalibrate every time, and that's growth, that's maturity, but that's just love at the end of the day. So I think that's where it really, really, resonates with me. But how about on your end?
Yeah, I definitely feel the same. I feel like we get each other, and that comes with knowing each other for so long and being friends for so long. I mean, we met as kids, and I said it before, we had to grow up together, we had to grow up individually, and man, have we had some seasons,
Yep.
Both individually and together. But at the end of the day, like, you really just get me, and I feel like I get you. And like you said, we get each other's drive. And while we both have that drive, like, it doesn't come with any competition. And I think that's truly like love at the end of the day. Like, I'm going to let you do your thing. You are very driven. You've got a goal. I know you're going to get it. Like, I'm here to support you and all of that. And you allow me to do the same. Like, go in your lane, swim as fast as you can, and I'll be right in this other lane, like, cheering you on. And I feel like that's really love at the end of the day. Like, there's no competition, like who makes more money or who has the next title, or, we've never really had any of that. And that is really just truly love to me. And I think that our struggles have made us individually driven. But the beauty in that is really just allowing each other to swim in your own lane and know that at the end of the day, like, we're going to celebrate together.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And like such a valuable point as well, because it's like, I don't ever, nor have I ever felt in competition with you. I think that's actually weird when husband and wives are in competition, like competing with one another. I'm like, there's no, like, we are a team right, at the end of the day. And like, for this team to win, it's like, there are time periods where I need to be the point guard, and like, I need you to be the center. And there are time periods where it's like, I might need to be the sixth man coming off the bench, and like, you got to run every play right now. If I'm traveling internationally for work, and like, you're here with the kids, and you got to manage swim, and then you also got to work, and then you're trying to also working on starting your own business. Like, damn, you're the starting five for this week, and like, I feel really, really bad about it, but we're on the same team. And I think that like, we will say that to one another from time to time in those seasons where we are getting rocked or we're really, really tired. It's like to remind each other and recalibrate by saying, hey, same team, same team. And so thank you for pointing that out, because I think that it is, I think it's really, really valuable. My next question for you, if you could go back to one specific college memory and relive it, what would that memory be?
Okay, so this is one that you probably don't want to relive, but I think it is, one, a very funny story, and two, just a defining moment looking back on just our history. It was a Valentine's Day. It may have been our first. Was it our first Valentine's Day? Maybe. We were going out to dinner, and I don't think we had a reservation, or we were late. I can't remember specifically what happened with the reservation, but there ended up being no dinner. So
Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember this.
we ended up leaving, and we were like, all right, well, we'll just go back home. Like, we'll pick up something. We ended up going to Wendy's,
Uh-huh.
and then we ended up going back to this house where you lived with these three other people. Um, and I say I would go back to that memory because I was totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just wanted to hang out with you at the
Yeah.
end of the day. You were probably like sweating on the other end, like, oh man, we don't have a reservation.
Uh-huh.
Like, she gonna think I'm broke, or, whatever. All the things that were probably going on in your mind, which is
Not
why
just
I
think.
said you probably,
Yeah, right.
you probably don't want to relive it. But I was just rolling with it. And I
Mm.
was like, at the end of the day, like, I just want to hang out with him. And we had a good night. Like, we went home and, like, we talked and just, it was like an enjoyable night for me. And of
Yeah.
course, it was Valentine's Day. So I will never forget it. But I just think there's something special in, like, just sitting down and having fun, like,
Yeah.
with your person, because that's
Yeah.
all that matters at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I remember that like it was yesterday, and I think I was definitely dying inside in
Yeah.
the moment.
Yeah.
But once I realized, I'm like, oh, she's cool with Wendy's. Like, we'll rock this thing out, and
Yeah.
like, hey, happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
You know, it was
And
it
we
was
did.
it was great.
And we did.
Yeah.
Is there any special moment that you would relive if you could go back?
This is so random, and like, I'm an alpha, so hopefully other alphas don't give me grief for this. But the one and only year that we went to Kappa Ball together. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I do.
I just remember the whole day. It was like a fun day. The weather was really good.
Hmm.
And like we were just hanging out, and it was just like it felt like some days you go through an exceptional day, and like that was like a perfect day, and it felt like that to me as well because the weather was awesome. We were hanging out, like we were able to hang out with friends and joke around and be jovial, and then we went and like we danced all night, like the entire night. The DJ
Yeah.
was great,
Yep.
the party was great, like the atmosphere was great. It was just like a really good fun, like exceptional day, and yeah, like the I just remember dancing the entire night, and I was like, okay, like this is awesome, and this is
It
like
was.
what I want more of as we continue to to build this life together.
Yes, that was a great day.
Yeah, it was. I have a question for you. So was there ever a moment when you thought, I don't know if this will work?
I feel like it was when we were taking that long break, and this was fully on me. Like, I initiated the break, and I was like, I really don't know if he's gonna take me back. I really don't know. Like, he was very big on, like, no breaks. I had gone probably months without talking to you,
Yeah.
which is insane thinking
so
about it
toxic.
now. Very toxic. And I was literally like, dang, I messed this up. Like, I see clearly now what I really want. And in that moment, I was really not sure. I'm like, I'm gonna call him up. And I think you like gave me a little pushback at first. And I was like, I'm maybe I messed it up. Like, maybe that's it. Obviously we see where things turned out now, but I was really not sure. I really thought I had messed this up for good.
Yeah.
What about you? Any
The
moment?
same. That's the exact same thing. The exact same thing.
Oh, man.
I'm like, this girl is trying me.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think, joke aside, I think, it was during that season. I think for me, I was very confident in what I wanted. I was very confident in what I desired, and I knew, like I've said this to you for several things. Like I already saw this life. I saw kids. I saw a boy and a girl. I saw, being able to these trips and like, the lifestyle that like we have put a lot of work into. I saw us being able to be in a position to help our family as well, right? Like, and to serve the community and help our friends and to just like serve, I think like a greater group of individuals. But it was like, we're only going to be able to do this if we lock in and we lock in together. And I don't know. I think I saw it at a very, very early age. So during that season when, like we were on this long break, I was like, I'll go find my person somewhere else if this is not the direction that she admires or, desires for her life. But again, like here we are, and we made it through that hurdle, and I'm very, very grateful that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, very grateful.
Likewise.
When did you truly know beyond, a doubt that we were supposed to be together forever?
It was after that. It was after that break that we took. Like we got back together. That was our senior year, which was an awesome year. We still had our challenges, but at the end of the day, like I knew I had messed up and made my mistakes, but I knew, you know, you were my safe space. At the end of the day, like I was always coming back. Like I always knew. And there's no definition, and I wish there were, to like just my person. Like you are my person, and like I said, you get me. Um, there's always trust there. It just feels safe. Like I just knew after that break that there was no turning back. Like you were it. We were locked in together. Like we had talked about our goals and our dreams, and we were locked in on our future vision, which is super super important. So after that moment, after that break, there was no turning back for me. What
Yeah.
about you?
Um, yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, I just I feel like I always knew. Like I just, I mean, you know me. It's like I attack things head on. Like at the end of the day, like I try to make sure that I leave nothing on the table at the end of every single night. Especially because I think nights turn to weeks, weeks turn to months, months turn to years, and like I, there's no time to waste. And I've always felt like that. Like people joking, they're like, "Oh, this guy gets mindset." It's like, no, no, no. I've always legitimately felt like that,
Mm-hmm.
especially when I got into college, and I knew I'm like, if she can just really, really see me and like give me a chance and in time, like we will lock in and we will build this beautiful life and this beautiful foundation together. So I feel like I always knew. Going back to the first time that I saw you, it's like that twilight moment. It was since then. I mean, in reality, it was since then, and I knew that like my big goal was like helping you come along to like seeing it as well. Because I'm like, if she can just open her mind and like in her heart and like give this a shot, it's going to be something beautiful that we're able to curate and really just build together.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Could not agree more. So looking back, what do you think? Is there one thing, or what do you think is the thing that kept us together, like through all of these challenges and ups and downs and growing pains? I will say.
Yeah, I think it's two things for me. I honestly just think it's faith and love. If I'm being entirely honest with you, I think we both have, you know, strong foundational backgrounds revolving around us walking hand in hand with God and pursuing like His direction and staying in prayer and really being believers, which I think is important for us, for our household, the Collier household. And then I think the second is just love. I think that like again, we really, really understand each other. We understand each other when we are at our highs. We understand each other when we are at our lows and extremely tired and short and, not performing as our best selves. And we continue to always recalibrate and just lead with faith and love. And I think for me, that's what makes it really, really easy for us to continue to work and for our marriage to continue to stay very healthy and happy.
Yeah.
Well, what about you? What's your answer?
Um, Absolutely faith. Everything that you said, I agree with. Just keeping God first and knowing that at the end of the day, like we are on this path together, and that is huge in our household. I think the second thing is just understanding. We are not perfect people. We never were. We never will be. But we've got a level of understanding in our household that like the intentions are good. At the end of the day, we try and say that out loud a lot. Like, all right, Ben may not have done this, or he didn't do this the way I asked, but like at the end of the day, were the intentions good? Like we have good intentions, and that comes with love. That's not something that I take for granted, and I'm sure you do not as well. But just understanding that we're gonna bump our heads, we're gonna make mistakes, but at the end of the day, like the intentions are good, and there's just love behind that. So I think that's always something that is just underneath the surface, no matter what we have going on up
Yeah,
top.
it's good. It's good. Um, in your opinion, like, how would you hope that our story inspires that young couple that may be in college?
Great question. just know that it is possible to get out of those growing pains. College is a very interesting time for so many reasons. I've said many times today, you're just trying to figure out who you are as an individual, like navigating not just like physically growing up, like going from a teenager to not being a teenager to trying to figure out how to be an adult. Um, Trying to navigate your friends, trying to navigate your family who may be in the same state, who may be in a different state, just trying to navigate so many different things. Your career, what you want to do with your life. Like we are asked to do so many things while we're in college, and it can be very tough. And so I think part of what I may take as inspiration is just knowing that like it is possible to have someone in your corner that you can just trust and bounce ideas off of and get through those difficult times, because it is possible. We were not perfect by any means, and we are an open book about that, which I think is very important, to part of our story. Our friends know, but those of us that do not know us as well, like, we will tell you straight up, we were a mess.
Yeah.
Like, we were kids
Yeah.
doing toxic things and
Yeah.
just trying to figure out life. But I think it's so important for people to hear that, because it's very easy to look from the outside in and be like, oh, we were not. We were not. We were literally just kids trying to figure it out. And we did. And like you said, that came with a lot of love. It came with a lot of faith. And so I think just sharing more of that story is important, to just knowing that it's possible. But
Yeah.
you got to talk about these things, because life is not just roses.
Yeah. Yep. You got it.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. What about you? Is there any part of our story that you hope would be inspirational, to others or younger couples who are just trying to figure it out and get out of those challenging college years?
Yeah, I mean, really like stand true to yourself, and then also like stand true to like your relationship. If there is a dream and a want and a desire that you have, communicating those things, right? Like, and I think we were doing that. I feel like I most certainly was like having very direct and honest conversation with you, especially during those moments of self-doubt where like I was broke and I'm like, I can't pay to like do this, but like we can like do this option B over here and maybe like get like the AUC special from Merkinson's for $2, $3. And I just think like that full transparency. So for me, it's you can do hard things and you can make it out, right? Like I think that's the like college is it is fun, but it's also very tough as well because you have everything at your fingertips. You have every temptation at your fingertips. You have what feels like your first time of like having true freedom and flexibility and choice, like at the end of the day. So I think with that comes a lot of responsibility, and you have to be mature when it comes to those choices. And if you feel like you really, really have found your person, then like be willing to extend grace, be willing to, and that's both people, be willing to accept and like honor that person and know that like I want this to work, but communicate that. And I think the more that you're able to communicate that, the more and more that person, like, it's going to be in the back of their head and they're going to be like, damn, like this person really, really wants it. Like, am I tripping? Am I missing something? So I think that's it. And then lastly, I think that you shared, like, there is no such thing as like the ideal or the perfect couple. Like, even to this day, we still bump our heads and we still have issues where like we need to talk through things or figure things out together. And I think to, a point that you said is like having the space of like realizing that like we were not perfect. We were a mess back in college and we fought really hard to make this thing and we continue to fight really hard to build. And like, to me, it just feels like a painting that we are literally trying to put together. Like it is a painting that we were trying to paint and then eventually like hopefully hand off to our kids. So it's like, hey, look at this beautiful mosaic, right? Whatever artist is your favorite artist. And like hopefully they can go and recreate and find their person and then do the same thing as well. So for me, that's how I look at it.
I absolutely agree. One more thing, if I could give any advice to those that are coming up and just looking for their person or think that they have found their person, I would encourage them to talk about their dreams with that person, because we have talked about our drive and our big dreams. I think we both individually had big dreams in college. And if you really feel like you have found your person, I would challenge you to talk about those dreams with them. I consider dreams, and when I say dreams, I mean like goals for your future that you really believe in. I consider those to be some of the most sacred things. And if you share those with someone, I think their reaction to that will say a lot. If it's negative and it's like, ooh, I don't know, or maybe that's not the direction we're going in, that will tell you a lot. Or if they're like, I am your biggest fan right here next to you, that's your person. And so I would encourage people to share those dreams and talk about them to make sure that your paths are aligned for the future. Because right now, in the moment, while everything may be fun, like, to get to those dreams, it takes a lot. Like, we went through a lot. There was a lot of school involved. There was a lot of long distance involved. Like, there are a lot of things that happen on the way to those dreams. And if you don't have the right person locked into those dreams, it can be very challenging. And I would say, as an individual, you got to be true to yourself. You mentioned this. And there was a question before that you mentioned something about, like, did you know if, I could provide for you or something like that. I don't think going into school that I was looking for somebody like to provide for me. I knew that, of course, you could do that. But at the end of the day, like, I knew what my dreams were, and that I knew that I could provide for myself. What I was looking for was a partner to join me along the way that I could have in my corner to support me and also support them, similar to the swim lanes. Like, so I think it's just it goes back to the goals and dreams, and just knowing that you have somebody next to you that's locked into where you want to be for the future. Because at the end of the day, like, that's the goal of all this, to make it to the future and to those dreams. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, it's good. Last question. If we could see back to our younger selves dating in college, and they could see, to the future and see us today, what do you think that they would say? And or feel?
You crazy kids did it.
Yeah.
You crazy kids did it. And you figured it out, and you were true to what you said you were going to do. We have both accomplished literally what we talked about in college, and we did it together. We figured a lot out after college, and it was no easy road. It really wasn't even a straight road, to be honest. But we figured it out because it was the love that was there at the end of the day, and just knowing that we had our person by our side, I mean, it's huge. We figured it out. What about you?
It's the same. I think that they just look and say, like, you did it, right? Like, I think being able to see, like, again, it's been 18 going on 19 years of us, like, still dating, and I could see a future, I could see a path forward, I could see kids, I could see travel, and now I think, those kids back then that didn't have anything, right? Like, no money, no real
air conditioning
ability.
in the car. No
I mean,
heat.
literally, all of them, no air conditioning in the car, no heat, at times no car, right?
Right.
And now to look up and see this life that we have designed with these wonderful, wonderful children, and being able to, again, like, serve community, serve and help friends, learn and grow from friends and peers and mentors, and marry people that have been doing it for decades longer than us. Like, we continue to be sponges, I think, of life, and we continue to try to get better at this thing called marriage and parenting, and the foundation of, like, really loving and supporting each other's goals and aspirations and dreams. And for me, I think there's a lot of beauty behind that, and I think that they'd be really proud of us, at the end of the day. But thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. I admire you. And I'm grateful that you were willing to come back on and really just spend time talking about it, because it was on my spirit, where I was just like, people need to hear more of like the messiness of like how relationships can be, and like you can still persevere through that to really build something that's beautiful and special to you and your family, and you know that allows you to chase your goals. But I love you and I'm
Yeah.
grateful.
I love you too. Thanks for having me back.
Okay, all right.